Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Tiller, the Director of the Personal Financial Planning Program at the University of South Florida, and I'm joined today by Dr. Chad Jones, a Certified Financial Planner and adjunct with our program, who's also came into this profession following a military career. So, Dr. Jones, welcome.
Well, I appreciate it.
Today we'd like you to share some thoughts on things that came out of your career, and also what might benefit others in the military. So I think the first question would be, how did you find your military experience has helped prepare you for your career as a certified financial planner?
Oh, it's a great question, and I wasn't sure what field I wanted to go to as early as 5 years before I retired. So I did 20 years, and in that 5 years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do was an interesting search for me, and I settled upon being a financial advisor because I was intrigued actually with a lot of the parallels of the skill sets that I thought I'd learned at the military that would bode well for me in that industry, in this industry. And it's really easy to kind of name those themes. I think the number one thing is discipline equals freedom. So what I mean by that is, obviously in the military you exercise a lot of discipline. You have to, right? There is very little autonomy in the military. Everyone has to know where you're at all times, even when you go on leave or on holiday or vacation, whatever you want to call it. You have to fill out a form with the address, a phone number. There are alert rosters. There's at least 3 people that know where you're at all times. There's just not a lot of autonomy. So an interesting anecdote is when I was interviewing for this position to be hired as a financial advisor at my firm, I had asked the question, how many leave days do we get, or how many vacation days, how many sick days do we get, and how do we manage that? And the gentleman who was hiring me kind of laughed, and he said, "Chad, I don't care if I don't see you over the next 30 days at all, but the report comes out that you're doing your job and assets are coming in and people are happy. I don't care what you do. So there are no sick days, there are no vacation days." So what he was telling me was, I was going from 20 years of no autonomy to this new career of complete autonomy. And what holds you through and allows you to do well, because some people don't do well with a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy in their time, is the discipline you learned in that environment, ironically, when you didn't have the autonomy. So the discipline was there to schedule things, to backwards plan, to prepare well, to manage resources. So discipline is the obvious thing, I think, right off the top of the bat. The next thing I would say is, you're coming from a team of teams when you serve in the military, so you truly understand that you can't be successful on your own, right? You are given skill sets. You are expected to be able to do your job well for your individual duties and responsibilities, but that's always nested in a larger effort. So being part of a team of teams, you understand and know how to employ your resources. Well, in this job, in this industry, you're kind of operating alone as a financial advisor, but you need your marketing team, you need your compliance team, you need your leadership, you need the wholesalers, there's no way you can grasp everything there is to know in this industry and do well with it. So you have to understand who the subject matter experts are and coordinate them well. So coming from a team of teams, you do well in that aspect. Another thing is critical thinking, obviously. Anybody who's been in the military, certainly if they're above an E5 in the enlisted world, or they're an officer, they have to think on all 3 levels: strategic, operational, and tactical. So when you know how to do that, and in my industry, strategic is the simple understanding asset allocation and where you're trying to get to down the road, the long-range target. Operationally, you have to understand the different accounts that go into that total portfolio, whether it's retirement, non-retirement, trusts, things of this nature. And then, of course, tactical are the daily or weekly or quarterly things you need to do to keep those accounts focused on what they need to be focused on. So to be able to critically think on all 3 levels at the same time, I think military are keenly prepared to do exactly that. And then the final thing I would say is simply service. Right? The hardest part, I believe, about this industry and getting started as a financial advisor, as a certified financial planner, is the number of rejections you go through, especially early on, but certainly throughout your career. You hear a lot of no's. And what ties, I think, a lot of military people, military service is hard. And what gets you through the obstacles, what gets you through the tough times is the idea of service, that you're part of something bigger than yourself, that you are helping others, and you certainly get to do that as a financial advisor.
Wonderful. So great insight. Some other thoughts, perhaps on different pieces of that. I guess part of it would be there's a lot of folks out there who are trying to consider what may bring them an identity with their work as they transition from military service, and they're looking for a new career. But they may not have seen themselves necessarily as being tremendous people with numbers. Who would be a good candidate who may want to give consideration to pursuing a career in personal finance after their military service has ended?
Sure, and I don't think numbers or not doing well in your math classes at the high school or college level should be a deterrent. My best friend is my calculator, so it handles all that for me, and it'll be the simplest calculations necessary in a meeting, and I don't trust myself to do it. I use my calculator. But to answer your question, again, it goes back to that person who can critically think on those three different levels, and is militarily we talk about strategic, operational, tactical. Here it's more long-term, mid-term, short-term planning, right, and how they're all nested in with each other. So if you can see the big picture, if you can understand the big picture, I think doing the job of a financial advisor would not be that difficult for a military person who can do that. And certainly, again, going back to the rejection, the part you can't control, it's very difficult. I will admit the paradigm that you enjoy in the military is very strong communication. Well, when you get out and you're getting started, and it's rough that first 3 to 5 years, and you're trying to build that book of business, people don't care to communicate with you the way you feel they should, even in a professional environment. Some people may look at you something less than professional, depending on who you're talking to. It doesn't mean that you're not, but so those two aspects, people who can critically think and people who can see the bigger picture of service and get through those rejections.
So for those, thank you. For those who are military veterans who are willing to take on a challenge and follow in the career path that you did, could you share what is so fulfilling about your career that somebody may want to actually pursue this?
That's a great question. I often try to start debates with people about, can you find for me a better job, period? Because what I am drawn to the most is actually the autonomy, the time that I get, coming from the military, having a few deployments under my belt, having missed at the time that I retired half of one of my kids' lives and a third of the other kids' lives, right? That's a huge challenge. To then have the autonomy available to you to create time with your family the way you want to create it. But it's not easy, all right? So I think people, again, I hope I'm sticking to the heart of your question. The challenging part of it, you're already equipped to handle that challenge. I joked again in my interview, he was telling me about these hardships and how difficult it is to be a financial advisor, especially in the beginning. And kind of being tongue-in-cheek, I said, well, are there any IEDs on the way to work? Are there any, concerns of someone on the rooftop tracking every, move that I make, intending to do harm? If the answer is no, I can't imagine this being any more difficult than what I've already experienced.
I think that goes to boost a lot of confidence in being able to take on the unknown when you know it certainly can't be worse than where you've been.
Exactly, and I get to go home and sleep in the same house as my family every night. That's another plus that you don't always get in the military.
Let me ask, what do you think are some of the benefits, or would be some of the benefits for veterans that might be pursuing a degree in personal financial planning at a Certified Financial Planner Board Registered program like we have here at the University of South Florida?
Sure, a great question. And I think I think you and I talked about this. There are two types of people who may be going into the military after pursuing that degree, and then those who are finished their military career and they're just simply transitioning to a new career. And I think for both of them, just understanding money. I mean, it's one of the biggest wedges for a lot of families. It can tear apart, it can pull apart if you don't understand how to manage finances. So just for yourself, I mean, even if you didn't end up after going through this degree program, if you didn't become a financial advisor, the wisdom and knowledge that you would have to make your own life so much easier, and that of your friends and family that you can impart some of that wisdom to. But certainly if you're going to go back in the military, you have soldiers who, they think that if you have checks in the checkbook, you have money. They want to use their tax-free monies that they made in deployment and do something good for themselves, and they buy this super expensive car without understanding the uptick in premium gas, the auto insurance they're going to run into, things of this nature. So they just don't understand how to manage money. And that is the biggest morale booster or morale deterioration when you don't manage your money well. So if you may be downrange, you may be a great soldier that's really good at the job you're supposed to be doing in the military occupation specialty that you have. But if you're worried about back home because the money's not there, you're not going to be effective. So as a commander, as a leader that can talk to that person, help them understand basic personal finances and what their resources are, what their priorities should be, it's a huge force multiplier. Not only in your own life, like I said before, but certainly in the lives of your soldiers or anybody that you're going to be around.
So you find that there's a high degree of fulfillment by helping others become better at controlling their financial outcomes. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, and selfishly, like I said, I was a young captain. I had $72,000 in debt. It's mostly my wife's student debt, but she's not here to defend herself. But that was okay. But we didn't know what to do, and we got onto this program to understanding financial planning. And certainly once I became a financial advisor, because in getting rid of that debt and getting our finances correct, that's what excited me partly in that search of what I wanted to become. So even selfishly, to learn these skill sets to help your own family tree, so to speak, is very rewarding.
And for those that are unaware of our industry, with the average certified financial planner nearing 60 years of age, can you address the extra desire that employers would have for people that are a little bit more mature because they've already gone through military service before they come into this field?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know the exact numbers, but yeah, it's very top heavy, a lot of senior financial advisors out there. And then you couple that with the great generational transfer of wealth we're going to see from, baby boomers have over 50% of the wealth right now, and I think it's 30% for Generation X and even less for millennials. So we're going to see this great generational wealth transfer, and we have a lot of financial advisors who are on the cusp of retirement. So there's a tremendous opportunity, not just for the robust career that someone can have, but as you mentioned, the employers are starving for those people who can come into this industry that have 20, 30 years to give in this industry and walk us through that process that I just mentioned.
I know that you obviously can't think of a better job for yourself. It's echoed throughout the country. The CFP board recently completed another survey, and 93% of CFP certificants responded that they were extremely fulfilled in their careers, which is something that in the planning field, we often see people working in different fields than they got their degrees because they weren't actually happy in those fields. So if you could just, one more time, redirect some thoughts to what are the main things you think military veterans would find appealing about launching themselves into this as their next career?
Absolutely. When I alluded to it before, I try to get myself into debates. Tell me a better job. And my arguments are along three lines. The first one, and I'm just going to get very real with you, find me a job where you don't have to ask for a raise. That if you want more money, you just got to go work harder. You got to go find the next client, right? So there's no one standing in your way of making more money if that's your thing. Number two, but certainly number one for me, is the autonomy. Just the exercise of being able to create your own calendar, to go on vacation when you choose to go on vacation, to create systems. So that autonomy that you have. And then finally, it's just being able to take care of people and not be forced in how you have to take care of people. I mean, certainly we have our rules and regulations, we have FINRA, we have SEC, but you truly are the master of your business and how you build it. And there are so many options to those different modalities and a way you can carry that out.